What's going on, guys? Just got back from a ride on the 1000 RR. It's a late October, beautiful sunny day, but it's pretty chilly. It was like 55 when I left. 55 doesn't sound cold, but you know how it is when you're on a motorcycle. But it was really beautiful out there, and my goal here was to try these Q3 Plus tires in the cooler weather, see how they would do. And right off the bat, as soon as I pulled out of the driveway, I noticed they're gripping pretty well. The first couple turns I hit them pretty hard, no problem. And as I went along for a couple minutes, I started to really push the bike, and it absolutely will not step out. I had no problem whatsoever. And I was real happy with that, because just yesterday, I took my 600 RR out. Well, actually, I don't think it was yesterday, it was a couple days ago, and it was warmer than it is today. Yet, these things were sliding all over the place. This is a Pirelli Diablo Super Sport. Now, given this rear tire is 5 years old, so it's right at the edge of its useful life anyways, but it came on the bike, so I figured I'd take it out and give him a good whooping. The front one's a 2000, I think it's a 2012, so, or it's 2014. It's only a couple years old, so that front tire is probably fine. But yeah, this thing slides around like crazy, even with a 600 having a lot less power than that 1000. It's a slip and slide show, which I used to use these same tires on my F4i for years, and I always used to have the bike sliding around. Never thought anything of it until I tried a tire that actually has good traction. Well, lesson learned. And I don't mean to be talking bad about Pirelli. They make some great tires, but I'm just reporting my experience. These things were sliding all over the place, and this bike's not even heavy. I'm not a heavy rider, and I was definitely thrashing it. But I mean, it was actually, I was getting wheel spin even just like taking off from intersections and stuff. So crazy. He's watching, supervising. But yeah, that was my report. The Q3 did the job in the cool weather. 55 degrees was no problem for it. And also worth mentioning, this Q3 Plus is a 180/55. And normally, this is a 6-inch rim, so normally it would have a 190/50 or a 190/55. But I wanted to try the 180 just because it's a lot lighter. And this bike is kind of an experiment in trying to see what the bike will feel like with a lot of weight taken off of it. So now I will say that when I switched from a 190/55 Q3 Plus to a 180/55, you know, I saved about 1.5 pounds, and I could definitely feel the difference. The bike actually felt more nimble, and definitely just accelerate a little harder. End up on one wheel more often. It has absolutely no problem with traction, but as you can see, this tire is worn right out to the edge. It's pretty new, so you don't really see a lot of wear, but there's no part of this tire that hasn't touched down, whereas with the 190/55, I had a pretty decent sized chicken strip in there, like maybe half an inch. So that goes to show you that you can get a better lean angle on a 190/55 with a 6-inch rim. So I know for my situation, that doesn't matter, because I mean, the only way I'm even getting out to this part of the tire is by going in parking lots and going and doing figure eights and stuff like that, 20, 30 miles an hour. Well, I think it's like 21 or 22 miles an hour on second gear. I'll do figure eights in a nice clean parking lot just to scrub the tires clean. And I don't really hit those kind of lean angles on the street very often. So I'm not too worried about that loss of... matter of fact, maybe it's even possible that with a tire like this, if you're not going to be going into extremely deep lean angles, you might actually have more traction on this tire than with the 190/55. Depends on the profile and the shape. On the front, I have a 120/70 Q3 Plus, and you can see I do have this half-inch chicken strip that never gets scrubbed out, and eventually that's going to wear like a shoulder in right through here. But it doesn't really matter, because I'm never going to be going to that section of the tire, not for my uses. As far as I understand, the guys on the track, in order for them to get out to this part of the tire, they really need to trail brake. And on the street, you can come out of a turn fast, but going into a turn real hot is probably not your best bet. And also going downhill like a madman might not be your best bet on the street. So generally speaking, I like to err on the side of going uphill when you're going to whoop the thing. So that's another reason why you're not going to be using all the front of your front tire. You're not going to be you shouldn't be coming into turns so hard that you need to go brake as hard as you can and trail brake into the turn and push your front tire, and especially again on going downhill. That's how you're going to end up using the whole tire. And in this case, on the street, my style is I like to ride I'll go in slow and come out fast. And even better if you can make that curve into 2 curves. Just kind of dip your bike in and out as you're going around the turn. It'll slow you down a lot, and it'll give you a lot more exercise and work the tires and work the suspension, and you'll get a lot more quality seat time that way. And you're going to be slowing your velocity down. So I highly recommend to do that. One thing I'd like to try on this bike maybe next year is to switch this 120/70 Q3 Plus to a 120/60 Q3. And that sounds pretty insane and going backwards in progress, but the reason is just because of weight. I want to experiment with it. So this tire is 10.1 pounds and the 120/60 is only 8.8 pounds. So believe it or not, that can make a pretty significant difference when it's on the outer section of the rotational unsprung weight. That's pretty important weight out there. And since I'm not using this section of the tire, I'm kind of hoping that for the 120/60 I can just get the whole tire, use the whole tire, maybe even match the front to rear geometry a little better with that 180/55, because the 120/60 is going to be a little shorter, just like the 180/55 is noticeably shorter than the 190/55. So might actually straighten out the geometry of my bike just a little bit, and it'll be a good experiment, because I don't think anybody in their right mind would try something like that, but I'm going to try it. The only thing is I'm going to have to take this perfectly good 120/70 off of this carbon rim, and I do my own tire mounting, and I did mount this by hand with tire levers, but it was, let's just say, it was nerve-wracking. So the idea of doing a tire change unnecessarily is not a super exciting idea, but I'll do it. And I'm just curious what it'll feel like. Everything I've done to this bike to take weight off it has been well worth it. So I have no doubt that that'll be a fun mod also.